For homework, guys, I'm going to assign two more activities to complete the 4 practices of Self-Access Center. Those 2 activities will be also checked in the next session. So let's start with this one. It says, watch the video about cultural shock and mark true and false to the statements below. Correct the false statements. So tell me about this. The cultural shock is divided in 3 phases, okay? Tell me, is that true or false? According to the video, the cultural shock is divided in 3 phases. What are the 3 phases? Does any of you know if there are 3 phases? Anybody knows? Is that true or false, guys? Any idea? What are the 3 phases that the guy mentioned in the video, guys? What are the 3 phases? Or are there 3 phases? Yes or not, guys? Did you see the video? Anybody? I'm not sure if we can see the video in Zoom because of the, you know, the volume, but we can try it. Let me check if we can try to watch the video here.
It's 115 students from around.
The volume is very low, so I don't think we can watch it. But basically, guys, according to the video, it says that the cultural shock is divided in 3 phases. The first phase of cultural shock is like honeymoon. He said honeymoon. You fall in love with everything that you see, because he was talking about New York. So the first phase, it's honeymoon, is what he calls honeymoon, because you see that everything is perfect. When you go to a new place, you fall in love with everything. So that is the first phase. The second one, is that you start to miss home. You start feeling homesick, and that is the phase that where you ask yourself, what I'm doing here, because you start to realize that you don't belong to that place. So you ask yourself, what I am doing here. And the third phase is when you ask yourself, where is the happy hour? Where is the happy hour? So the cultural shock is divided in 3 phases. We can say, yes, it's true. The first phase is called love. No, it's not called love because the phase is called, we can say honeymoon, okay? That is, according to him, the second phase in cultural shock is called honeymoon. Now we have, in the second phase, everything becomes harder. Yes, it's true because he says that when he went to New York, he was not able to express his ideas as he used to do it in his own language. So he says that he lost his big skill when he went to New York to express what he wanted. Because he didn't have the vocabulary to express his ideas. So it was very hard. And that is when we go to a different country and you don't know the language or you cannot have a full command of that language and you cannot express yourself as good as you express yourself in Spanish, for example, okay? And that was exactly what happened to him. He couldn't express himself when he went to New York. So in the second phase, everything becomes harder. Yes, it's true. According to him, yes, it's true. The next is, the teacher doesn't say anything about the food in the US. Well, when he went to New York, he also mentioned about the food. He said that when he went shopping in a supermarket, he couldn't find the food that he wanted. And that is very common when you go to a different country. You won't be able to find, for example, tortillas. If we go to the United States or Canada or another country in Europe, you will be it will be very hard for you to find corn tortillas. And in Mexico, you know, the corn tortillas is a basic food. So it happens to him as well. He couldn't find the food in the USA, the food that he was used to eat in his native country. So it is true. Yes, the teacher doesn't say, no, it's false because he mentioned the food. He mentioned the food, that he couldn't find the food he wanted. And in letter E, there are no numbers in American coins. As you know, he was talking about the American currency, the nickel, and he said that a coin that is bigger than the other the quantity is smaller, so he was confused. He wasn't able to manage the American currency at the beginning, and that was mostly because the numbers in the coins didn't appear. So there are no numbers in the American coins, according to what he said. Yes, it's true, right? No numbers, only the names of the coins in the American currency. And then we have 2 questions. How do Americans look like for the man in the video? And why? Does any of you wants to tell me about this, guys? What was his idea about American people? What did he think about American people, guys? You know that when you go to a new place and you meet different people, you start having some stereotypes about, we can have stereotypes about American people or British people or Brazilian. So those are stereotypes. But once you are in the country, your mind changes or becomes stronger about those stereotypes. So tell me, how do the Americans look like for the man in the video? At the beginning and then after. Who wants to tell me this answer? How do the Americans look like for the man in the video? And why? Anybody, guys? Any volunteers? How do the American people look like for him in the video at the beginning? Anybody, guys? Any volunteers? Does any of you want to participate with that question? Anybody, guys? Any idea? Who wants to tell me? ¿Alguien quiere participar con esa pregunta? It says, how do Americans look like? Anybody wants to participate, guys? Okay, here we have Angelica says that the American people have a strong devotion for his country. They are very nationalistic or patriotic. Yes, could be. Right. But another thing is that Americans, for him, they were very smiling all the time. They were very smiling and very happy for everything. He said that American people were very happy and smiling. So we can put here, they are, according to him, is that they are happy and smiling. They're happy and smiling with a good sense of humor. This was at the beginning, guys. At the beginning, he thought that American people were happy. Yes, friendly as well. They are happy and smiling with a good sense of humor. They are also friendly, okay? So that was at the beginning. At the beginning, that was his idea about American people. When he first just arrived, at the beginning, he said that about Mexican people, American people. But what happened later? What happened later? Later, he realized that they were not like that. They were very well, later he realized that they are very hypocritical. He says that, okay? Later he realized that they were hypocritical people. And what else he said? Superficial. Superficial, and what else he says? The other, he says that they were hypocritical, insincere. Insincere, he said that they were insincere people. Insincere and superficial and distant, okay? And distant people. So as you can say, his ideas about, yeah, they were reserved as well. So we can say reserve and distant. So his ideas about American people change because at the beginning, as you know, everything seems to be great. You see, you think that people are very friendly and sincere, but actually they are not, okay? They are not. So his idea about American people changed after some time being in that place. So what is the American phrase book? What is the American phrase book? Does any of you know what is the American phrase book according to the video, guys? So I think every country has a phrase book. We can have a Mexican phrase book. For example, guys, in Mexico, it's very common that we say, a ver cuándo nos vemos, ¿ok? A ver cuándo nos vemos. Y esta frase que utilizamos cuando nos encontramos a alguien que no hemos visto y pues para ser más gentiles, decimos, a ver cuándo nos vemos, pero ese a ver cuándo nunca llega. Entonces, cuando alguien te dice a ver cuándo nos vemos, es nunca, ¿ok? Y ese es el significado. Podemos poner esa frase en en este libro para que los extranjeros la interpreten como nunca, ¿ok? O otra que nosotros tenemos muy común es, te llamo después y nunca le llamas. Entonces, cuando dices te llamo después, también es nunca. Eso también podría quedar en la frase bueno, en el libro de frases de mexicanos. Otra es, te veo en 5 minutos. Y esos 5 minutos se vuelve 2 o 3 horas. O ya voy en 5 minutos y llega en 2 horas, ¿no? O también el de otra frase, sí, el de ahorita, aquí me la están poniendo, que es también nunca. Esas frases nosotros podemos hacer un catálogo, digamos una lista de esas frases para cuando llegue un extranjero a México pueda interpretar lo que la gente le dice, ¿no? Si le dice ahorita, quiere decir que es nunca. Si le dicen 5 minutos, quiere decir que no son 5 minutos, son 1 hora o más. Si te dice que a ver cuándo te ven, nunca te van a ver. Entonces, él también capta algunas ideas, ¿ok? que los estadounidenses dicen. For example, he says, when someone in English asks you, how are you? You said in love. Okay. In love also, as you think? Well, the American asks you, how are you? And you said, oh, I'm fine, but he doesn't mean that. He doesn't mean how are you. He means just, what he really means is just hello, just like that, okay? This is one. Another that they American people mention is let's have lunch. It's very similar to a Mexican expression that we say, a ver cuándo nos vemos, pero los americanos dicen let's have lunch sometime. And this can be defined, or the meaning of this expression is I'm just being polite. I don't really mean having lunch with you. I'm just being polite. It's like here with us. A ver cuándo nos vemos no quiere decir que lo quieras ver. Quiere decir que pues está siendo gentil con él o con ella. Y en este caso también, I'm just being polite. That is, okay? Another example is I'll have to think about it. I have to think about it. Tengo que pensarlo, ¿ok? Tengo que pensarlo. ¿Cuál es el significado de esta frase? El significado de esta frase literal es tendré que pensarlo, pero el significado real es I thought about it. I thought about it. And it's no. And the answer is no. And the answer is no, okay? So I have to think about it. Tendré que pensarlo, pero cuando dices esto es porque ya lo pensaste y la respuesta es no. Another is when a professor or a teacher tells you something about your paper, the teacher can says, your paper is interesting, okay? Or your homework or whatever. It says your homework or your paper is interesting. But this is not a good thing, according to him. Your paper is interesting. When the teacher says this to you, this is not a good thing. Literally, we can translate it as, tu trabajo es interesante, but it doesn't mean that. Okay, we have some phrases. So what does this mean? This means your paper is interesting. I don't have anything. Oh, I have nothing. I have nothing good to say about it. And here in the chat, someone else put, I'm not a big fan. Oh, yes, I don't like it. Right. I'm not a big fan of. Actually, the persons mean I don't like it. Yeah, but they are very polite, you know. Another phrase that they use when the teacher asks you, you might want to consider, you might want to consider doing X, no, something. You might want to consider doing X. So what a teacher expects is that I absolutely expect you to do it. So this is the way the American phrases work, okay, when you tell them. So we have to be careful. The same, we also have our own phrases, and foreigners need to know about these phrases and slang and idiomatic expressions. Those are very important. Slang and idiomatic expressions to really communicate with people around you in a different country. Now, in the next exercise we have, there are some words that describe the way people sometimes feel when they live in a foreign country. Take a look at the list below and discuss which one of them are positive and which ones are negative. For example, what about anxious? Anxious, is it positive or negative, guys? Anxious. Anybody? Positive or negative? Anxious, I think is positive. No, negative. Okay, what about embarrassed? This is very common when you go to a different country. Sometimes you don't know many rules or customs. So sometimes you can be involved in embarrassing situations. So you can feel very embarrassed sometimes. So this is negative as well. Insecure, negative. Comfortable, comfortable is positive. Comfortable, enthusiastic is positive. Nervous, of course, is negative. Confident is positive. Excited is positive. Uncertain is negative. Curious is positive. Fascinated, we can say that fascinated is positive. At the very first stages of cultural shock, everything is fascinating. Uncomfortable is negative, right? Uncomfortable is negative. And then depressed, obviously, is negative. And homesick, negative. And worried is negative, okay? So those are some of the adjectives that we use to describe people that are facing cultural shock. Now we have, take a look at the chart, different customs. In Canada, if you're invited for a meal, you should arrive on time, not nearly or late, not early or late, so on time in Canada. In Indonesia, never point to anything with your foot. In France, when eating out, keep both hands on or above the table. Keep both hands on or above the table. In South Korea, always use both hands to pass something to an older person. In Egypt, don't eat anything with your left hand. In Thailand, Never touch anyone, especially a child, on the head. Never touch anyone, especially a child, on the head. So here we have different customs around the world in different countries. So does your culture follow any of these customs, guys? So definitely the custom in Canada of arriving on time, no. In Indonesia, never point to anything with your foot. I don't think it's a custom. In Mexico, so no. In France, when eating out, keep both hands on or above the table. Yes, I think it's okay. In Mexico, in South Korea, always use both hands to pass something to an older person. No, we don't follow this custom. In Egypt, don't eat anything with your left hand. Okay, so it could be possible in Mexico that we usually eat with the right hand. We hardly ever use the left hand. But if you are left-handed, you can use your left hand to eat, of course. And in Thailand, never touch anyone, especially a child, on the head. So we can say that we follow the French and the Egyptian customs of the chart above, according to this. Now, do any of them seem unusual to you? Which one do you think is very unusual? For me, I think is the Indonesian. Never point to anyone with your foot. Well, we usually point with the hand, but not with the foot. So it seems very unusual. So we can say Indonesian. Indonesian is very unusual because it's not very common point someone with the foot, okay? In Mexico, we usually do it with our hands. What other interesting cultures do you know, and how are they different? What customs should a visitor to your country know about? So tell me about these two questions, guys. What other interesting cultures do you know, and how are they different? Interesting cultures. For example, Indian culture. Indian. Here you can write a different one, okay? In my case, I'm going to give an example of Indian culture. Okay, in China, education is very important and they are very strict. So we can say another example. In China, education is very important. So they are very strict. In the Indian culture, for example, women on their wedding day are overrated. Okay. The women on their wedding day in the Indian culture are over decorated because they are they have some tattoos on their hands, all their hands and arms, and they wear a lot of piercings on the face and lots of makeup. So in my opinion, they are over decorated. Okay. So it says, what costumes should a visitor to your country should know about? Which ones? About punctuality. Punctuality. We can say that Mexican people are not always on time and is not badly, it's not a bad thing. We can say it's not a bad thing, okay? Everybody is used to that. Another about another recommendation or another costume that the foreigners should know about. What else? Tell me another. About punctuality, that is a custom. Mexican people are not always on time and it's not a bad thing. We are used to that. Another is that Mexican people make a lot of parties for not a reason. For any reason, we can say for any reason. So we're just making a party without apparently any important reason, like just if my favorite team won the championship, I make a party. So we're used to make a lot of parties, right? Okay, guys, so far we have already checked this worksheet. And for homework, I'm going to send you two worksheets to continue or to finish, in this case, to finish with the self-access activity. Now you can upload this worksheet in the community of virtual self-access center. Okay, guys? So thank you very much for joining the session and see you next Tuesday. Have a nice day, guys. Thank you. Bye-bye, guys.